Let's get more on this now with Tom Packer, who's a fellow at Oxford University's Rothermere American Institute. He joins us now from London. Really good to have you with us, Tom. This is an extraordinary turn of events. This second apparent assassination attempt comes just 2 months after the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life that occurred in Pennsylvania in July. What's your reaction to this latest sequence of events?
I mean, one shouldn't underrate how much people are trying to assassinate presidents and former presidents all the time, sending death threats, sending things through the mail. What was different about these ones is how close they got, particularly the first one, where, of course, a person in the crowd got killed, Donald Trump himself got injured. This one, thankfully, seems to be a much better story. I wouldn't say it's 100% confirmed yet it was an assassination attempt, though I think it almost certainly was. Um, I think it sounds like it's been dealt with very well. Sometimes you get a bit of a trigger happy aspect where when Secret Service or any organization like that has been too insecure, they overreact and start arresting or opening fire when they shouldn't. But they may have opened fire, but it doesn't sound like anyone's been killed and probably not injured. The suspect's in custody. I have seen who appears to be online, but I'm not going to say the name because it hasn't been confirmed yet. But if it's the guy who's been doing the rounds online, he seems a bit delusional, have a very strong history of being engaged with events abroad like Taiwan and Ukraine and involved with it. So he might have been motivated by Trump's foreign policy positions and seen him as a threat to American involvement abroad. But that's very speculative at this point. But the key thing is it's not going to matter very much except for this guy because it's been stopped. And I doubt very much we'll still be talking about it much in a week's time, unlike the previous assassination, which came much closer.
Yes, and we know that this second apparent attempt comes less than 2 months before the US presidential election in November. What impact might this incident have on campaigning going forward?
I mean, the Secret Service are obviously going to possibly push up the pressure even more. There has been a while concerns about securing the president. Trump is very unusual for a presidential candidate, and how much is golfing while he's in the height of the campaign. And there have been concerns it was a security risk. In this case, it seems to have been dealt with very well. It was very well explained on the broadcast you were showing, where they had a guy in the whole front of him. They saw the guy with a gun in the bushes, and dealt with the whole thing. So I think the effect of the campaign will be minimal. I think almost certainly it will only be beneficial to Trump. Someone trying to kill you, but anybody who's remotely undecided tends to sympathise with you rather than the murderer. If someone's pro the murder, they're very unlikely to be voting for you. And it doesn't appear it was motivated by some issue where Donald Trump's unpopular on. So I think it can only help President Trump, but I just don't think it will make much difference at all. I think people will forget about it. If you could read American history for these assassination attempts that didn't come close to succeeding, and unless you're a specialist in the subject, you always forget them. There were loads against Ford. There were various ones against Kennedy that didn't succeed. It's just a completely normal part of American life that people try and assassinate presidents and fail. What's unusual is when they either succeed or come close.
Yes, and it certainly did come close on July 13th. We know that in the wake of the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump, the director of the Secret Service stepped down because of what was perceived to be security lapses on the Secret Service's part. But in this case, they seem to have averted a disaster. Do you think the Secret Service in this instance did a better job this time round?
I think it's. I mean, no one's dead, and the president and President Trump didn't get injured, so it's hard to argue they didn't do a better job. I mean, I think how much it was the director's fault, only time will tell. But I think someone had to resign over that. Like they didn't have somebody on top of a roof for safety reasons, as I understand it. There's been clashing accounts. It was all very badly managed. Largely everyone's agreed with that. In this case, it seems quite well managed. The only interesting question is just the possibility that they were too trigger happy and that they arrested someone who they didn't need to arrest, or They thought it was an assassination attempt, whether it was something more complicated than that, like an attempt to find show holes in the security. But at this point, that seems extremely unlikely. I think almost certainly it was an assassination attempt, and all the evidence is, as a minimum, they did the right thing by arresting the guy and finding out what was happening. So I think this will suggest that while that the security they've set up for golf works well for this now, the worry might be that other lone wolves, presumably this guy's a lone wolf, I'd be very surprised if he isn't, that his individual assassins might look and think, oh, the golf is a moment of opportunity. Maybe there's another way I could do that, because the golf course isn't closed off in the way normal events for the president are. It's a relatively good opportunity for an assassin. So if I was Secret Service, I'm sure I'd be trying to talk around Trump to do less golfing. But he got shot in the ear and he's still doing the rallies. So I'm not convinced they're necessarily going to persuade him not to do golfing. Presidential candidates, as I've said before in this program, aren't made of the same stuff as the rest of us.
So we can only guess at this point that his security service detail will be beefed up even more. Tom Packer, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks as always for joining us.